It finally happened. Our forces have crushed Putin's army, a critical loss for Russian aviation. It's spectacular. In Pokrovsky, the occupiers have their ears pinned back like rabbits. They're waiting for our response in Sumy region. New weapons are at the ready. We already have the coordinates for the next strike. All this in our episode Hellpoint. Russian aviation is in ruins. In the Kremlin, they're howling, generals are throwing remotes, planes are burning, helicopters are falling from the sky. A spectacular air battle. The sky is under the control of the Ukrainian armed forces. This is a real aviation disaster for Putin's army. Has the countdown really begun? We'll talk about this in just a moment.
Drivers, logisticians, and loaders from the Russian marketplace are watching as helicopters explode and burn near Bryansk. That's right. The cargo of the Mi-6 helicopter is detonating loudly.
The Russian helicopters brought some kind of ammunition, most likely. Ammunition for multiple launch rocket systems. Yes, usually when a rocket is hit, it explodes like that.
The Mi-6 was completely burned, and another Mi-35 was damaged. And here, a Russian Su-35 fighter jet is burning. According to the Air Force, the enemy aircraft was shot down in the Kursk direction. Exactly how it happened has not been officially reported. There is a version that, for the first time in history, our F-16 won an air battle against the Russian Su-35.
In terms of its characteristics, the Su-35 is superior. So the F-16 was being guided by an AWACS aircraft. Is that right? And the point is that we have already received the Swedish subs. Well, quietly, maybe we've received them.
And another successful operation took place in the Nizhny Novgorod region at the Savazleyka airfield. According to preliminary data from the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, MiG-30 and Su-30 or 34 aircraft were hit. Aeroballistic Kinzhal missiles, which the Russians used to attack the Ukrainian rear, are regularly launched from this airfield.
With the expansion of some of our capabilities, I'm talking about the possibility of deploying F-16s, Mirages, together with, for example, ground-based air defense systems or advanced reconnaissance and detection systems that Sweden has promised us. I think reports about the loss of Russian aircraft will become more frequent.
So, since the beginning of summer, according to official data alone, Ukraine's defense forces have neutralized nearly 50 enemy aircraft. The main strike occurred on June honest. In a single day, a third of Russia's strategic bombers were hit at 4 enemy airfields.
Operation Spiderweb actually dealt a rather significant blow to the capabilities of strategic aviation, substantially reducing the size of their aircraft fleet.
Russian strategic aviation has not suffered losses like this since its very inception.
According to the Security Service of Ukraine, more than 40 aircraft have been neutralized. The damages amount to $7 billion. For the most part, these are Soviet-era strategic bombers of various TU models.
Restoring such equipment is extremely difficult. Is it even possible at all with modern Russian capabilities under sanctions?
Modern Western components are hard to obtain due to sanctions. So where did the Russians put their old Soviet ones? Our experts say that Russia did not preserve the Soviet legacy. For example, the decline of the Kazan plant, where during Soviet times they produced those very Tu-22 M3 and Tu-160 bombers, which now can't fly because of the Pavutina.
After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Kazan aviation plant fell into decline, and the workshop for manufacturing this aircraft was completely destroyed. The working design documentation for 2 of these types was lost.
Among other things, the Russians also lost the technology for producing the titanium beam. This is the so-called backbone for the Tu-160. The entire aircraft was built around it.
The problem here is that this is a large beam that is welded using a vacuum method, and at that time the Kazan aviation plant was taught how to weld in a vacuum by the Patton Institute and Patton's engineers. At one time, Russia lost a significant amount of intellectual property, which now prevents them from restoring their production capabilities.
Moreover, the successful operations of Ukraine's defense forces are also hindering the aggressor country's aircraft designers. At military factories in Kazan, near Rostov and Ryazan, something is constantly exploding.
The factories are under attack from our drones. I hope that even if we receive longer range missiles, then they will be under missile strikes as well.
So, when it comes to restoring the strategic Soviet aircraft that launch long-range missiles deep into Ukraine from the Russian rear, things are complicated. But they do manage to restore more modern frontline fighters like the Su-30, Su-34 and Su-35.
We've created a huge number of problems for the Russians, but for now their strategic aviation is still flying, and we may have to repeat something like Operation Web 2.
According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces, since the start of the full-scale war, Russian losses are estimated at least 416 aircraft and 337 helicopters. Rostislav Sisoyev, We Are Ukraine, the United News Marathon.
What a turn of events in Pokrovsk. The Russians are hiding in the bushes, trembling with fear. Ukrainian armed forces drones are going on a targeted hunt, an epic video. They sweep away everything in their path. They try to escape on motorcycles, but it's in vain. The fierce revenge of the Ukrainian defenders is breathing down their necks. An urgent change of tactics. See next how the fierce battle for Pokrovsk is unfolding right now.
Our drone hovers over enemy positions for a few seconds, and the occupiers are already on fire. Well, they prism a little bit. Did he miss a little or what?
Yes. Well, please, go ahead now.
No, thank you.
Another drone is already flying in to finish off the Russians. The southern approaches to Pokrovsk are in ruins, but even among them, the enemy still manages to hide. In the morning, the paratroopers were already striking concentrations of the enemy.
They tried to get in, to push through, crawling through basements and outbuildings, and we delivered fire strikes against them.
The appearance of leaves on the trees is yet another layer of camouflage for the enemy. So the pilots are scanning every meter. And here at the command post, they scrutinize every suspicious object and every rustle of the branches.
But it was the wind. Branches swayed. He saw something.
So he was in the bushes, right? Potentially.
Well, it seems like he did. It used to be easier to spot them because there was no greenery. And we could see them, 3 kilometers away from the front line. But now the greenery has grown up, and in the areas that are greener, they can move around freely. And closer to the front line, there are only barren, dry trees left standing in the area. So that's where we start to observe them. And
in this greenery, the soldiers noticed some suspicious movement. A vehicle is already heading there. The defenders were not mistaken. The drone explodes, and they run out from the bushes.
oh, there are two of them. One is already wounded. Oh no, they're appearing.
Ground, do you copy? The cover. How?
Yeah, they're closing up right now.
But this cover won't save the enemy anymore. They gave away their position, and our guys will turn it to dust.
We also spotted another enemy drone, which was probably dropping a package. They were waiting for the package in the bushes.
But while we were watching the elimination of one group of occupiers, others appeared on the second monitor on motorcycles.
The motorcyclist is crossing over the road. Wait.
Yeah, there are two of them sitting. They've stopped now. Oh, they're unloading.
The soldiers assume that it's probably the position of enemy drone operators. If that's confirmed, it won't be there for long. Meanwhile, our guys are working along the railway. They've spotted an enemy group there, and at the mine where the Russians are gathering.
Are there any gaps? Are you observing them?
By the phone, right?
They hit by phone.
Yeah, there are phones here.
And these are the remains of the enemy's Molnya drone. It can carry up to 5 kilograms of explosives. Just a month ago, the enemy wasn't using them on this section of the front. But now the Molnya is attacking the road to Pokrovsk.
The area is littered with this crap because they launch it just to have it loiter around and look for a target. There are even reports now of them using all this artificial intelligence technology. That is, it can independently identify the type of vehicle, the color. Basically, for example, it targets green-colored vehicles.
The drone itself is made of foam and a stick, but the enemy relies on sheer numbers, and for now, it's difficult for us to counter this scale. So any help for the paratroopers is always welcome. The more drones they have, the more occupiers will either rot on Ukrainian soil or be sent home in a black bag.
There's nothing here.
Here, zoom in. Look over there.
Reporting from near Pokrovsk, Oleg Kornienko, Fakti ICTV, United News.
They were the first to enter the Kursk region, and now they're holding the line in Sumy region. Steel warriors who fight the enemy using their own methods, powerful strikes. Putin's soldiers don't have time to recover. Russian generals are in shock. The front is on fire. See right now how our forces managed to effectively hold the defense in one of the hottest sectors.
At the controls of the BMP-1 is a soldier with the call sign Seryoga. In civilian life, he worked as a sailor on a tugboat. Before the full-scale invasion, he lived with his family in Kherson, but afterwards he was forced to take his loved ones to Vinnytsia region.
Our brave guys drove them out of Kherson. I returned to Kherson, went to the military enlistment office, passed the medical commission, and they wrote fit for service. I'm very glad. Waiting for someone else to do something for you is not serious. I'm Ukrainian myself. Where would I run to and why? If I run away, what kind of example will I set for the youth?
He says he fit right in with the 1st Mechanized Battalion. A big plus is the young commanders who have literally grown up during this war, like the battalion commander Yevhen with the call sign Almazes. After finishing school, he did his compulsory military service and then signed a contract in 2014. He was assigned a shattered battalion, which he began to rebuild. By the start of the Kursk operation in 2024, it had become a powerful unit that went to strike the enemy on their own territory.
First, they started to deploy Koreans in this sector, and we were the first to immediately spot them. They fought, well, not very effectively, but they kept going to the end, to their deaths.
However, compared to last year, the Kursk region has also changed a lot, says the battalion commander. That's why this direction has become more difficult.
They started deploying all their most powerful brigades, Hero Marines, airborne troops, the Korean People's Army, and so on. They used all of this against our sector in various ways. And in addition, there are now a lot of pilots and their FPV drones here.
If only the enemy directed all these forces at the military, it would be only half the trouble, says Almaz. But the enemy, just like in other directions, tries to inflict the most harm on civilians in order to sow panic and despair among the people.
It's difficult because the enemy intends to cause the most harm not to the military but to the civilian population. He constantly strikes these areas chaotically and unfortunately hits civilian vehicles, civilian buildings and places where there are civilians and children.
Along the front line, the enemy, just as at the beginning of the war and now, uses only one tactic: numerical superiority in manpower.
The tactic that was used then is the same as now. Only back then in the Kursk region they advanced mainly with equipment, throwing in their infantry after. Now it's almost all infantry, they are quad bikes, motorcycles.
Meanwhile, in this battalion, they try to minimize losses, honing every operation and communication to the maximum.
Forward, forward, forward. That's it, we've taken the Medusa position. Medusa is secured.
Volodymyr, with the call sign Karat, is carrying a conditionally wounded soldier on his shoulder. He himself is from Irpin. After what the enemy did to his city, he says he had no other choice but to enlist, so as not to let the Russians come home a second time.
In a way, it's easier when it's on his land, because it means he does less damage to our land. There are fewer strikes on our people, on our soil.
In the Sumy direction, Karat says, over the past year, the enemy has strengthened with air support, aerial reconnaissance, attack drones, and aviation. Today, this is the greatest danger for our soldiers.
Especially now, drones and fiber optics, you really need to have great skill and luck to get away from them. Even if the personnel survive, the equipment is definitely lost.
However, the Ukrainian army is not standing still either, and it uses the enemy's technologies improved and more effect against them.
This war requires knowledge, significant development and flexibility. Old methods don't work. Those old ones, the ones who write the books, they don't work. What works is constant creativity.
And of course, motivation plays a significant role, because every soldier knows why he is here and for whom.
We are fighting so that our families are safe, for our wives, for our children, for our parents. I want them to be able to decide for themselves what to do, where and how.
Reporting from Sumy region, Olesya Borovik, Alexander Oleksienko. We are Ukraine, Marathon, United News.
Frontline hell, Kharkiv region is on fire. The occupiers are advancing like a black cloud. Our forces strike without mercy. The enemy's equipment is falling apart under these powerful blows. In Donetsk region, chaos reigns. The Putin army is left with nothing, like at a broken trough. They don't know what to do. The Ukrainian armed forces are shelling them. Artillery hits its targets, and drones show no mercy. The occupiers can't keep up with counting their losses. I'll break down the operational situation on the battlefield in the following report. In the Kharkiv region, in one of the villages, the National Guard's aerial reconnaissance spotted a dugout with occupiers inside. The FPV drone operators responded quickly and accurately. Near another settlement, they detected an enemy assault group. Choosing the right moment, our drone destroyed part of the enemy group, while the rest fled. In addition, they managed to destroy the occupiers' field ammunition depot.
In the Vovchansk direction, the Falcon unit discovered an enemy artillery piece in a forest belt. Its barrel, still hot after firing, left a thermal trace that was spotted by the Vampire bomber. After that, our defenders also struck the command and control post, a shelter with enemy personnel and enemy vehicles. The Phoenix border guards are destroying enemy equipment in the Kupiansk direction. Over the course of 7 days, they neutralized 2 tanks, 3 armored fighting vehicles, the same number of IFVs and APCs, 2 howitzers, a Rapira cannon, 6 trucks and a car, a fuel depot, and an ammunition cache. The Chimera fighters, as part of Timur's special unit of the main intelligence directorate, successfully completed a combat mission in the Kupiansk sector. Our soldiers managed to hold a wide section of the front and stabilize the defense. The video shows the key stages of the operation, storming enemy positions, evacuating the wounded, and the work of UAV units. The Ukrainian Chimera took the lives of more than 30 occupiers. Over 40 were wounded and 2 were taken prisoner.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
In the Siversky direction, the enemy once again attempted to storm the positions of the Edelweiss Brigade. They deployed 19 motorcycles, 3 buggies, and about a platoon of infantry. After our fire strike, the enemy suffered losses. 3 were taken prisoner, 18 were eliminated, and 5 more were wounded. Almost all of the enemy's equipment was destroyed. Fighters of the Freedom Forces Battalion of the 4th National Guard Brigade, Rubish, repelled the Russian onslaught. The video shows footage captured by our drones. In just the first minutes of repelling the attack, 1 tank and 3 armored vehicles of the occupiers were hit. In the Kramatorsk sector, drones from the Phoenix unit are destroying the occupiers' equipment and logistics. 2 Grad multiple rocket launch systems, an enemy UAV command post, a cannon and ammunition depot, 4 trucks and 5 vehicles were destroyed. And the soldiers of the 5 separate assault brigade have taken out an artillery gun, a mortar installation, and an infantry shelter of the Russian army. In the Toretsk direction, occupiers who are spreading out across settlements and trying to entrench themselves in the ruins are being eliminated with airdropped munitions. The strike drone operators of the 12th Azov Brigade use precise airdropped munitions to hit Russians no matter where they hide. Despite the enemy's constant attempts to locate our positions, the fighters provide round-the-clock cover for the infantry on the front line. The soldiers of the Chervona Kalina Brigade showed footage of their artillery in action in the Pokrovsk direction. Modern warfare is all about drones and gadgets, but good old artillery still matters, and when a skilled force knows where to strike, the enemy can't escape. The Spartan fighters also achieved successful results. These are shots of yet another strike on Russian Zits and their armor. In the Novopavlivka direction, the Marines demonstrated their skills. In the footage, the occupier shelters are blown to pieces. Our drone pilots are giving a masterclass.
In the Pokrovsk direction, the enemy tried to use their numerical advantage to break through our defenses in the areas of the settlements of Poltavka, Malinivka, Yelizavetivka, Myrolubivka, Zvirov, and Kotlin. In the Novopavlivka direction, the enemy is concentrating its offensive efforts in the area of Kostiantynopol, Bohatyr, and Burlatske. The enemy attacked the positions of our defenders near Zaporizhzhia and Donetsk region using motorized equipment.
In the Pokrovsk district, enemy drones are monitoring the roads, while glide bombs and artillery strike residential neighborhoods every day. Police officers are trying to break through to the frontline villages. This time they evacuated 2 elderly women and 2 men. They managed to evacuate 4 locals from Mirnograd. Currently, about 2,900 people remain in the city. With faith in the armed forces of Ukraine, Tetiana Litvin reporting Inter-TV channel United News Marathon.
Even more weapons and a new ally on the move. France is entering Ukraine with UAV production. Macron is no longer hesitating, is launching real production capacities. Game-changing drones are already on the horizon. We'll tell you right now how this will help finish off Putin's army.
Military cooperation between Ukraine and France is reaching an entirely new level. The head of France's Ministry of Defense announced the creation of a joint venture for the production of military equipment and officially unveiled joint drone production in our country.
We are launching an entirely new partnership within which a major French automotive company will join forces with French small or medium-sized defense enterprises to set up production lines in Ukraine for manufacturing drones.
The French minister called this partnership mutually beneficial for both official Paris and Kyiv. Although the details of the future cooperation and information about the company are being kept secret, domestic analysts consider this a powerful boost for the dynamically developing Ukrainian defense industry.
Ukrainian designers and engineers who are developing new models of drones are advancing by leaps and bounds. It's really awesome, both the guys and the girls.
Even the French Minister of Defense himself can't hide his admiration for our defense industry. Le Cornu believes that Ukrainians are the best in Europe when it comes to developing and using drones. And for France, it is a great honor that our defenders have agreed to share their unique experience with Europe.
There is no need to ask French citizens to work on the production line in Ukraine. Ukrainians are better than us at developing drones and, most importantly, at shaping the doctrine of their use.
All the drones produced at the newly established Ukrainian-French factory are intended for the armed forces of Ukraine. In the future, these drones will also be available to the French. Ukraine will also provide official feedback to Paris regarding the use of these drones in combat conditions. The first such data is expected to be sent to our Western partners very soon.
Now, drones can fly out, swim out, or crawl out anywhere and send their regards to Russian equipment.
Ukraine has combat experience. France has a powerful industrial base. This is a mutually beneficial and strategic partnership.
The Ukrainian and French ministers also plan to expand industrial cooperation, including the participation of Western companies in the production of equipment for the needs of the armed forces of Ukraine. In particular, in addition to drones, Ukrainian-French production of air defense systems is being discussed. It is expected that they will be assembled either in Ukraine or on the territory of France.
A real sensation. The Russians made a serious blunder. A Ukrainian trace was found in the Shaheds. Experts are shocked. The enemy is embedding our signal into their drones. Ukraine is going all in. A trap for the occupiers. A battle of intellects is happening right now on the battlefield. How it works and what it means more in the report. Shaheeds connected to the Ukrainian network.
Every day we find these modems and SIM cards.
How are Ukrainian SIM cards helping the enemy? Is it reconnaissance using our signal, telemetry, or remote control?
In recent weeks, the media have been actively discussing the topic of Shaheds being equipped with Ukrainian SIM cards. Reports in the media have mentioned drones connecting to cell towers, that SIM cards make the mopeds more resistant to electronic warfare, allow for route adjustments, and even enable video transmission. We are finding out what role mobile SIM cards actually play, what objectives the enemy is pursuing, and how Ukrainian forces are countering them. Serhiy Flash Beskreznov, head of the Center for Radio Technologies, says they study the remains of Shaheeds every day and exclusively demonstrates the internal components of enemy devices.
Indeed, we find GSM modems inside the Shaheds. I brought one here to show you what they look like. This is a very ordinary standard commercial LTE modem made in China and other countries. And inside these modems, we find SIM cards. These SIM cards are either from the Russian Federation or sometimes they are roaming SIM cards or occasionally Ukrainian SIM cards from Vodafone, Kyivstar or LifeCell.
According to Flash, a modem with a Ukrainian operator SIM card was first found in a downed UAV 2 years ago. There was a Kyivstar SIM card, and the first modems with MIMO antennas, which improve connection quality, were simply taped by the Russians directly to the body of the device. This indicated a field experiment, not mass production.
Why are the Russians doing this? They install so-called trackers in the Shaheds, and these trackers transmit information to Russia. Where is the Shahed flying? This could be its speed or altitude. This information is important to our enemy to study our air defense. If its signal disappears, the enemy knows.
It was either brought down by radar or destroyed. The Russian drone operator marks these points on the map and prepares to bypass Ukrainian electronic warfare and air defense systems. Telemetry data from UAVs, coordinates, trajectory and signs of interference are used by the enemy to plan further strikes, as confirmed to Ekonomiczna Prawda by the Defense Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense.
As of today, SIM cards can be purchased in Ukraine without a passport or any personal identification. The enemy can obtain such SIM cards and install them in their drones. There are rumors that SIM cards may also allow for flight adjustments through certain other communication channels through other information services. However, no one has received confirmation of this recently. We have no confirmation that this signal can be stable.
Experts comment that in serial production, Shaheds do not have either cameras or communication systems that would allow them to be controlled in real time. So the GSM module is simply a tracker for monitoring the status of Shaheds, including those that have crashed not far from the launch site. Therefore, the occupiers also install Russian SIM cards in mopeds. Ukraine also uses this technology.
I want to tell you even more. During that famous historic operation carried out over the weekend to neutralize part of Russia's nuclear triad, Russian LTE networks were also used with the help of Russian SIM cards.
On May 25, Russia practiced the total network shutdown during a drone attack. In Ukraine, there are currently no plans to carry out mass blocking of subscribers. They are developing algorithms for blocking SIM cards without harming the population, since communication is critically important for civilians, the military and emergency services alike.
Our security services are working very closely with mobile network operators, and we are developing special measures, special algorithms. We are able to find all these modems in the network and disconnect them very quickly. This algorithm includes, for example, a model of where the SIM card was purchased and how quickly it moves across the territory of Ukraine. We might have some BMW enthusiast who also likes to move quick driving fast somewhere on the highway, and the algorithm could mistakenly identify him as a hostile Shahed drone. And our task is to prevent this from happening.
Another solution to complicate the tracking of enemy drones is the substitution of the digital field, the so-called spoofing.
You can even deceive the system and feed it certain diversionary information, which sometimes allows the Shahed drone to turn back toward Russia or Belarus.
Because of this, during attacks, Ukrainian smartphones may suddenly display a false location in another region or even another country. As for selling SIM cards with passport registration, experts' opinions differ. They say it's an important component of national security, but at the same time, it creates difficulties for citizens and is unlikely to solve the problem on a global scale. At the same time, the Verkhovna Rada will for the second time initiate meetings with mobile operators to address the issue of SIM cards being used in enemy drones. Jarina Markiv, Podrovici, Inter TV channel, United News. That's not all for this topic. I was with you, Darina Hutsakalu. Even more hellish news from the front lines in our next broadcast. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. See you soon.